Hi, I'm Lianne Kim, and this is The Business of Thinking Big, the podcast where we talk all things business mindset, strategy, and hustle. So, if you're looking to grow your revenue, serve more dream clients, and create amazing new possibilities, then you, my friend, are in the right place. Stay tuned. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of The Business of Thinking Big. I am your host, Lianne Kim, and joining me today is the amazing and talented Laura Beauparlant of Lab Creative. Laura has over 15 years of experience in branding, and she just became a published author with the release of her first book, Brand Chemistry. Laura, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lianne. I'm so excited.
I am really excited to talk to you today about how to create a brand that stands out in the crowd, because so many of our listeners are business owners, of course. And of course, right now, it's such a noisy online world. And there are so many brands, it seems. There are so many people doing what we do. And we're always looking for ways in which we can stand out. And so branding is one of those ways. And I'm just really excited to talk to you all about this stuff.
Thank you. Me too. It's one of my favorite subjects, and that standing out in a crowd is really the biggest thing I want people to get out of this. You know, from our talk and the work I do with people, it's really understanding and owning what makes them unique and different, and not being afraid to really leverage that so they can stand out.
Ooh, I'm excited. Okay, but before we go into all that, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and sort of how you got here?
Sure. So I have been a designer for over 20 years and an entrepreneur for just over 15, actually. It was just before my wedding 15 years ago that I launched my very first business. And while the business has changed a lot over the years, my desire to, forge my own path and challenge the status quo and kind of do my own thing, I think I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. And so I had that first business. I owned a stationery business for wedding invitations and corporate events. And I let that go about 3 years ago, actually, when I realized that I had been doing this design work for businesses over the years and realized that I was enjoying that a lot more. And I could see a much bigger future in that. Also, I could see that industry was changing very rapidly. And that's something else I would love people to get to think about, is that what's happening in your world and in your industry. You could be on the right track, but if something changes dramatically and you're not ready to pivot, that can really affect, your business. And I could see that was really changing. And I knew that I needed something different and I was ready for something bigger. And so I relaunched as Lab Creative 3 years ago on April 1st.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I know. April 1st is a significant day for me now for 3 reasons, because the first, my husband proposed to me on April Fool's Day, which we thought, that was kind of the longest standing April Fool's joke that there is. I officially incorporated Lab Creative on April 1st. And this year, my book officially launches and is available on Amazon on April 1st. So I thought that was kind of a fun 3 April 1st things, and none of them are jokes. So
yes, yeah. What a beautiful and very special day for you. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. So that's sort of I think every entrepreneur's journey is filled with a lot of different things, right? We're never static, and you shouldn't be static. And so even though my business today is very different than it was before, it's not really that different in many ways. I found my voice. I found what I'm the best at, and I found a way to build a business working towards that and doing that for the people that I really love to work with. And I love what I do every single day and the people I get to work with.
Laura, you just gave me chills. That's awesome to hear.
That's what I wish for everybody, that they can attract the right people, not just anybody with a pulse and a bank account.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. So your mission with your business is to
It is to make branding and design accessible to every entrepreneur and small business owner. Everything I have created in my business is with the objective that It is not overpriced. It's, it's affordable. I still need to make a living. I have a team, right? So it's not cheap, but I've made it accessible because what I've learned is, and a few years ago, I actually started to go after corporate, like bigger corporate gigs, because I thought, oh, that's where the money is. They'll have big retainer work. Like that's, if I really want to grow and make more money, that's what I need to do. But it didn't feel right kind of inside. And I spent some time really getting clear on what's misaligned. And I realized it was a misalignment. It was not what I was meant to do. I get the most joy out of helping other entrepreneurs that are not that dissimilar from me, solopreneurs, small businesses under like 5-10 people, where the business owner is truly ambitious and passionate about what they do, and why they started this business. We all have to think back, right? Like, everybody right now listening, close your eyes and think back to that moment that you decided to start this business, right? And when you start to get really clear on that, everything else comes into alignment, and you stop doing things because other people are doing them that way, or that's what's industry standard, or that's what people expect. Too many people are doing things that are what everybody else is doing, and they're following along and they're not leading because they're afraid to stand out.
Yes. And I totally want to echo this, because this was sort of my journey as well. I talked about it a few episodes back, where I talked about why I decided to do a rebrand this year. Was you were 100% right. I had lost track of why I wanted to start doing this in the first place and who I wanted to help, which was truly female entrepreneurs. But my website, and you're familiar with my old brand and my new brand now. You've seen the transformation. My website was really speaking to kind of every business. It was Think Big Sales Consulting. And it was, well, if you need to help grow in your sales, I'm the girl. But what I discovered over time was, whoa, that's way off of who I actually am and who I want to be helping. So I love that you're helping people get back in touch with their core, their why, and get back in touch with who they want to help as well, because that's what branding is all about is well, as I'm sure you're going to tell us, is really just like finding the right ways to reach those people that you're meant to serve.
Yeah. And, a lot of people talk about developing a client persona, and I don't actually do that. I have a completely different approach. It's in my book. It's like chapter 1. And it's really about, I use something called the common thread approach. So for me, if you do have a very specific target audience, like pregnant women, couples getting married, or women or men or whatever that is, great. Then you can target them specifically. But most of the businesses I work with, ours included, have a huge range in age and gender in their clients. And I don't want to work with one specific industry. I love working with men and women, and my clients range in age from their late 20s to their early 60s. So a client persona to me doesn't work. I get a general feel of like their level of education, maybe how much their business is making. But to me, I want to understand, and I help my clients understand what their clients value, what their challenges are, and how you help them. Right. And so then you identify what is the common thread. Then you start to build your language around that, not a specific age or gender or, like Barb, she's 45, she likes yoga. Like that to me doesn't work in every business.
Yeah, I can totally see what you're saying. And I love this idea of looking for the common thread. And actually, although my approach is slightly different when I talk about things like, dream client and all that stuff, one of the exercises I do is pick 3 people that you've served in the past 2 years or so that you've just absolutely loved. And then they get clear on those people. And then I say, okay, now great. What do they have in common? Yeah. And then we do some digging. Okay, so they all have this one attribute. Why do they have that? Why is that showing up for them? And we dig and we dig and we dig. And then we find out, as you were saying, it's really more about understanding who they are as people and their core values and core beliefs. And once we know that, once we understand their emotional side of who they are, then we can speak to them so much more clearly. But I think you and I can both agree that most people are walking around with a business and they haven't done this work. They haven't got clear on who it is they serve and why they want to serve.